my name is Anushka Gandhi, and today I'm going to give you a brief overview of how to get your G1 and G2 driving licenses here in Ontario province of Canada. So the other day I just drove to Toronto, and that's when I recalled all my memories. It was like a flash of memories. I remembered my first day in Canada and my first time seeing the city of Toronto. And that's when I also thought about the struggles which I had when I didn't know how to drive. I didn't have a car back then, and then I had to like roam around with all those heavy shopping bags in freezing, wintry, cold nights. And that's when I thought that I need to make a video and help you guys know how to get your driving license here in Canada and get started. Besides this, it's also important to get a Canadian identity as soon as you come here, because it won't be convenient every time to carry your passport when you get out of your houses. So it's always better and safe to have a Canadian identity. So now, without wasting any further time, let's get started with this video. Okay, so there are like three different stages or levels of getting your car driving license here in Canada. The first is G1, which is more of a knowledge test. So herein you're supposed to give a computer-based multiple choice question test. The G2 is going to be a drive test, and herein you will be getting a driving license which you could use to drive here in Canada with a number of restrictions. So there will be a set of restrictions for G2. For example, you won't be allowed to drink alcohol while you drive or even before you drive. Now, the G is going to be the full and final license, and it will still have some restrictions on it, but there'll be just a few like countable restrictions, and it's going to be the final license. So once you have G, you're all good. Okay, so now let's talk about the overall cost of how much you need to pay in order to get these driving licenses. Now, in order to get started with your G1, there's always a package which involves the cost of both G1 and G2 driving license plus a 5 years of span. So you get 5 years with you in order to finish both G1 and G2 and G. Although the cost of G license is not included in this package. It's just G1 and G2, but then you get an additional 5 years in order to use your G2 license for driving here in Canada. Now, this package costs about $159.75. Now, if you happen to fail in your G1 exam, you get an option there. So each reattempt for G1 is going to have you pay $16. So you need to pay $16 for each attempt. There is no such limit for attempt as long as I know, but every time you pay, you could either do it on the same day, you could try reattempting on the same day, or you could come back anytime preparing even better and give the G1 test for $16 extra. So with every attempt, it's going to be $16. So the cost of G test is going to be $91.25. Now, like I mentioned before, this is not going to be included in the package because the package is only for G1 and G2 test. So the G test cost, you will still have to pay it separately, and it's going to be $91.25. And with each reattempt, you will have to pay the same amount, both for G2 and G. For G2, the reattempt cost would be $53.75, and then for G, again, it's going to be $91.25. Now, if you're someone who is looking to know more about the rules and regulations here in terms of driving, you could always access the drivetest.ca website, wherein they have everything mentioned about the driving test patterns or what the rules and regulations are in general. Or you could just walk into any drive test center and ask for a handbook. You just have to pay cash $16, and they will give you a handbook which has got all the information in it. Besides this, in order to prepare yourself for the G1, which is the knowledge test, the best thing to do is approach your instructor if you have any driving instructor, or you could just approach anyone whom you know has got their driving licenses done here. They should definitely have a PDF document which would have the most probable questions asked for the G1 drive test. Okay, so let's dive into the G1 test in Canada. So it's pretty much straightforward. You just have to walk into any drive test center. Now, it doesn't have to be the nearest location. It can be literally anywhere in the same city or anywhere outside. Just have to walk in. the first thing you need to go do is get yourself registered. So you need to fill up a form. They would be giving it to you. Just fill it up, and once that's done, just have to wait for your turn to come. Now, once you get inside, they'll have your eye test done first. Now, this eye test is done in order to verify if you need any corrective lenses, if you have any corrective lenses, or if you have any color blindness. So these are the two major things they'll be identifying through the eye test. Once you clear the eye test, the next thing is you just have to wait for your turn until you can enter the test room for your G1 test. Now, it's basically a room full of computers, and you just have to sit in front of that and get your test done. Now, as long as I know, there's no such timer in order to finish the test, so you can take as much as time you want. You'll be given two sets of 20 questions. The first 20 questions would be based on the traffic signs, and the other 20 would be more of based on the traffic rules. So you will be given two sets of 20 questions wherein you will have to score a minimum score of 16 out of 20. Now, if you happen to score 15 in one and 17 in other, you still do not pass, because it has to be 16 or over in either of those, in both of those two sets. So even if you score a little less in either of those two, you still have to give a reattempt. So in order to get your G1 driving license, you need to be at least 16 years old. So that's the minimum age there. Once you get your G1 drive test, you need to wait for 12 months in order to get going with your G2 test. Now, if you're a new driver, you need to wait for 12 months. Now, you could reduce this span to 8 months if you happen to get any driving lessons from a certified driving instructor. So that's when you can reduce it to 8 months, and you could give your G2 test as soon as you finish those 8 months of practicing driving. Now, if you are someone who has got an experience of more than 2 years from your home country or any kind of foreign driving license, you are eligible to give your G2 test right away after you give your G1 test. Now, in my case, I gave my G1 and G2 in the same month. It was just a 15 days gap, and then I got my G2 test done right away. So for that, you need to have your driving license, the driving license from your own country. For example, if you're from India, just get your driving license. Make sure you've got the chip on it, the golden chip on it. Make sure, because at many places they look for the chip in order to consider it authentic. Besides this, do not forget to bring your DL extract, which is the driving license extract from India before coming here, because that's what is needed in order to verify your driving experience. So if you have more than 2 years of driving experience, you can give your G2 right away. You do not have to wait for any time. If you are someone who has a driving experience from your country for less than 2 years, you still have to wait for a year. So if for example, if you have a driving experience of 8 months, you still have to wait for 4 more months in order to get your in order to give your G2 test. So how much ever months you're short of a year, you have to wait for those many months, and then you can get your G2 test. So you need to finish at least a year if you have your driving experience from your own country. Okay, so the G2 test is going to be a proper drive test wherein you're supposed to drive the car, and the drive test invigilator is going to sit right beside you, and it's going to be just the two of you inside the car. So this test is going to be about 20 minutes long. For this test, you definitely need to book a spot for yourself. So you book a day, a time, and a location for yourself. Now, the location doesn't have to be restricted to the closest city you live, or it could be literally anywhere wherein you get an appointment early. You just book it one for yourself, as long as it's convenient for you. So this test would be conducted entirely on the city streets, and you would not have to drive on any of those highways out there. Besides this, you would have to perform some basic maneuvers. They would also observe how you start, stop, or turn the vehicle. In general, how you follow the traffic rules, and how you look or take care of the traffic signs. Besides this, they will also have you perform three maneuvers. The first would be to do a parallel parking. Basically means parking in between two cars. The second would be to take a 3-point turn or a U-turn. And the third would be to either park uphill or downhill. So either of those two, downhill or uphill parking. After you perform all these three maneuvers, now you're supposed to drive back to the test center and either reverse park or just straight away park into any of those parking lots. They will strictly be observing if you're following the stop signs, if you're following the traffic rules. So I think that's going to be all about it. You will get the results right away. The invigilator will let you know if you've passed or failed. So I think that's all about the drive test here, both G1 and G2. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Feel free to drop your comments down below in the comment box. If you like this video, if you find it informative, please consider to subscribe to my channel, hit the like button, comment down below what you want to watch next, and until then, have a wonderful day. Bye.